Good morning, everyone. I hope I am getting through. Okay, Julia Wave. Who are you again? I got her muted, so I can't hear her. Julia and I will always introduce each other because we know we're bad at names and faces.
I apologize. I had my mic off. Julia Ashley. Good to meet you, Martin.
Yep. So if I've done things right, you should be seeing a picture of Diamond Resnick.
Yes.
What a name for a gem of a man. And if that joke is bad, you should have heard some of Mike's. He was, I'm showing my own age when I said he had Borscht Belt humor. The man could make you laugh and turn around and make you absolutely cry within the space of a paragraph. He could make you think, he could make you wonder, and he could make you hope as a writer. He could make you believe that you could do this too, and he wanted to help. That he believed in this philosophy of pay it forward. He wasn't the first one by any means. I first heard it from Heinlein. Others first heard it from Hubbard. Others, I believe, have been mentioning going back well before the age of what we think of as science fiction, well outside the genre. The concept that in a writing career, in any creative career, you reach a point where someone helps you and they help you get that step in, that foot in the door, that first step on the path. And when you reach a point where you're in a position to help someone, you can't pay them back because they are so far down the path that, yeah, maybe you can help them once in a while here and there, which I'll talk to with Mike's writer kids. But the best you can do is pay the next person on the path, pay it forward. And Mike believed that in ton lots. Mike believed in that long before he became a judge for Writers of the Future, which is itself entirely about paying it forward, about helping the next generation of writers in science fiction and fantasy get a step down the path. Mike believed in helping that next writer get into the career so that they in turn would help the next generation as well. And today, I and some friends are trying to do that. Some of us directly inspired by Mike, some of us just with the spirit, but who didn't have the chance to work with Mike. They all believe, we all believe, that we are supposed to help out people like we've been helped. For those of you unfamiliar with his career, Mike was writing science fiction, short and novel, from I believe early 70s until his passing in 2020. So give or take a 50-year career. In that time, he became the most nominated and awarded writer of short science fiction for Hugo Awards in the field. Again, if you're outside of science fiction, Hugo is the premier fan-voted award for various presentations of science fiction and fantasy. Mike had more awards and nominations in Hugo's for short fiction than for anybody else. As he pointed out, you can't have that many nominations without having a lot of losses as well. He took those in stride, or at least publicly he did. I don't know. Did he kick the walls while he was in private? We all get a little disappointed. But Mike was inevitably cheerful and upbeat about the things that went on in his career and about trying to share the knowledge with other writers. In particular, Mike was known to adopt writer kids. I don't think he came up with that name. I think some other editor came up with it at a conference where Mike was basically followed around by a number of writers whom he had mentored and helped become professionals themselves. Mike was even prone to giving a leg up to new writers in an incredibly valuable way, which was collaborations. And we'll have at least one of his collaborators with us today, Lostetter. I'm not sure if Stuart was ever a collaborator. I actually was not. I passed up the chance, but for a very good reason. What Mike would do is he would get invitations to submit to anthologies, often big ones based off different media properties, Batman, Aliens versus Predator, and so on. Mike, anytime the subject came up, would tell you that the last good thing on television outside of sports was the show Maverick in the 1950s. Mike was famous in around the 70s that his wife Carol said, "We are not going to the movies ever again, because all you do is spend the whole time tearing apart the story and pointing out all the plot holes in it." Mike was a realist, and he knew there was a lot of interest and money and popularity, and he essentially knew none of them. But if he would get invited to one of these anthologies, he would look through his list of young writers that he thought had real promise, and he would contact them and say, "Hey, would you like to work on a story of, say, Aliens versus Predator, the example I know about?" And what he was looking for was for the younger writer to have the knowledge of how that world worked, of what those characters were and so on. And then he would apply the polish. And so together they would produce an incredible story about a world that Mike was not all that grounded in. So he did this. It helped the anthology because Mike's name helped sell books. And it helped the new writer because it got them a credit next to the most Hugo nominated writer in the business in a big anthology. And so which was Mike's way, again, of paying it forward. And Marina, I mentioned Aliens versus Predator because Marina was in collaboration with him for that book. He was also very active in helping. Is it possible to record this wonderful event? Question from the crowd. It is going to be recorded, so I will share that, yes. So Mike would also help out in other ways. And Mike was a liar. I love you, Mike. Mike was a liar in one particular way, that when he counseled new writers, he said, "It is a business. You must treat it like a business. You are doing this for your income. You are not doing this to be a friend. And sometimes editors are going to reject you, and that's okay. You can still be their friend, but sometimes they're going to reject you. Sometimes you're going to tell somebody no, even though you're their friend, because that market, for instance, is too small." And he pointed that out on more than one occasion, that sometimes the market is too small. And then Mike would give stories away to small, struggling markets that would be trying to grow, and his name could help. He had a famous case where he sold, and I forget to which country, it might have been Poland. He sold, in air quotes, a story for practically nothing, a reprint of one of his stories, because it was a new market in a new country that was literally just opening up to international fiction, and Mike wanted to help. The mercenary side of that is on the other side. When that market started to really boom, the number one name in English science fiction that everybody knew in that market was Mike Resnick. So there was some benefit to him, but he was unfailingly generous in this, even when he told us to be mercenary. Another example of that was the magazine Galaxy's Edge, which was founded by him and Shahed Mahmood. Shahed had a vision of a market for classic reprint science fiction, and he wanted Mike as an editor, first because Mike was a friend, second because Mike knew everybody in the industry and could find them and get some good reprints, and said, "This is what my budget is, this is what I want, and this is how much I will pay you." And Mike said, "No, you are going to cut my pay and give me more budget so that I can print half of the magazine as news stories from new writers at full news story rates, so that those writers can be appearing in the pages next to and Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle and. He created this magazine with Shahed. He created it specifically to be a marketplace that would draw people in for the reprints of well-known names and provide exposure for the new writers. And that was yet another example of his paying it forward. So the last example I want to mention, as we're just about getting up to Stuart's time, is, of course, Writers of the Future. Today's presenters, I believe more than half are Writers of the Future winners. All of us, but I think one got to actually study under Mike. The one who couldn't is Mike Stambos. Sorry, I butchered your name again. Mike is a winner this year, going to this year's award show, so he will not get a chance to study under Mike Resnick. I will do my best, Mike, to fill you with Mike stories. Mike and Mike, I'm going to get confused here. I will do my best to fill you with Mike Resnick stories and lessons at the workshop. So this was the man who inspired this talk. Every year since his passing, okay, it's only 2 years, but coming up is always reminders that Mike's birthday is coming, reminders that it's going to be Mike's birthday. Reminders. And I just felt sad because we just lost Dave Wolverton, another inspirational mentor. And now here comes the reminder that it's Mike's birthday again. And I said, sorry, I'm going to make a liar out of myself here. I said, I don't want to be sad all Saturday. I want to do something for Mike. And so today, I want to pay it forward. And a bunch of my friends, they want to pay it forward. We want to give you good information, and maybe along the way, for some of us, some memories of what Mike was to us. Because for some of us, he was our writer dad. And the day he told me that, in my career, and I swore I wasn't going to get choked up, but I am. So that was Mike. We are going to see in the intermissions, I'm going to run the video that some of you saw before the presentation. Video with pictures of some of Mike's books among his many, and links and QR codes for where you can buy them, which would still be a help to his wife, Carol. It still is part of his legacy that she is still being supported in part by book sales. And interspersed among those will be links to the social media and pictures of the presenters so that you can learn more about them as well. And today is free. None of you has to pay a thing, but at the end is a link to the GoFundMe for Dave Wolverton's family, because they just lost him. And so there's a link there as well if you should be inclined to donate there. You don't have to. This is free. This is paying it forward.